Hi, hello everyone. So you are viewing the lecture video on the course Feelings in Philippine History with the topic The Act of Proclamation of Independence of the Filipino People. All right, let's begin. So to give a short background, so prior to the proclamation of the independence, so we remember that the Filipinos conducted an armed revolution to attain their independence so that they can enact social changes in society. Right. So eventually, uh, the revolutionaries and the Spaniards came to a truce, and it was decided that Aguinaldo, then the leader of the revolutionaries, would be sent into exile in Hong Kong, while the Spaniards will be paying the revolutionaries for the damages that caused by the war, right? So Aguinaldo did not really plan to be exiled for long. He just used the opportunity in order to strengthen their arms, mainly to purchase weapons and ammunitions. Okay, so Aguinaldo's return from his exile signaled the resumption of of the struggle or of the uprising against the Spaniards. Okay, so what changed with Aguinaldo's return? Okay, so they now, compared to the early phases of the revolution, so they now have a sufficient amount of guns and ammunitions, okay, which were again purchased during his exile. Okay, and this supply of weapons and ammunition, of course, not to mention the renewed fervor, the renewed morale, the boosted morale of the Filipinos. So these factors led to the now successful battles. Okay. All right. So the act itself contains a short history of the Spanish occupation. So it can be read there in the early parts or in the first parts of the proclamation, a short history of the occupation, the aspirations of freedom, the Filipinos' aspiration of freedom from Spanish rule, the sacrifices made, so from the martyrs to the early heroes of the revolution, and the revolution that resulted from that aspiration. Okay. So on June 10, 1898, so Emilio Aguinaldo appointed Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista as the special commissioner to write the act. So who was this Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista who was commissioned to write the act? So he obtained a law degree from UST. Okay, so once he gained that degree, so he provided free legal services to poor people. So based from that, again, we can deduce from that actions na he was a person whose motives were really to help the poor. Okay? So he was a person for the people. Okay. So one of his actions also was to raise funds for the propaganda movement. Okay. So even though he was a person of degree, or he was a professional. Okay, so he was a compassionate professional. He provided free services. He was also active in assisting or in supporting the struggle for changes. Okay, so he also joined the La Liga Filipina, another arm of the reform movement or of the propaganda movement, which was established by Rizal. Okay. However, he was arrested at the onset of the revolution. Okay. So he was accused of being part of the revolution. Okay. So he successfully defended himself. He was released. And despite being accused, imprisoned, and released, so he still continued with propaganda activities, eh, with the aim of trying to attain social changes. Okay, so during the during the revolution, so he was invited by the Spaniards to be the advisor for peace. Okay, so when they started to include Filipinos in the government, so basically towards the end of the Spanish occupation, so they were now starting to include Filipinos in the government. Okay, it's actually a good research topic. What were the Spaniards uh, initiating towards the end of the 1800s, towards the end of the 19th century? Okay, so were they starting to institute reforms, or did they continue with their oppressive actions? So it's a good idea for research. But anyway, okay. So when Aguinaldo returned, he Bautista was appointed in the dictatorial government as the Auditor General of War and a political advisor. Okay, so let us summarize the act. Before we go to that, let's go back to Bautista. Okay, so um, is he the right person? Was he the right person to have written the act? Kumbaga, is it a good decision by Aguinaldo to commission Bautista to write the act? Okay, so again, going back to his credentials, again, he has a law degree. So, well, that would be suffice to write an act, okay, especially a formal act of proclamation. Okay. And again, his character of being a person for the people, for the Filipinos, for the masses. Okay. So his character is unquestionable. Okay. He was a person who was dedicated for the welfare of the people. Okay. So I believe that uh, Bautista was, or well, his choice was, or Aguinaldo's choice rather, of Bautista. It's a justified decision. Okay. Uh, Again, Bautista had the necessary character, person of character, to to be given the responsibility of writing, well, the act of the proclamation. Okay. So what are the contents of the act in summary? Okay. So first, we have the justification of the revolution. Okay, meaning what would justify the actions of the Filipinos in staging a revolution. Okay, and the basis for the independence proclamation. So this will be one of the center focus of our discussion. What made Bautista and also Aguinaldo, uh, what made them proclaim independence? What were the events, or what was happening that made them decide now this is now the time for us to proclaim our independence? Okay, and for second, we have the actual proclamation. All right. The third, we have the recognition of the Filipino government. And lastly, the national symbols. Okay, so what justified the revolution? Okay, so these are excerpts from the act in itself. Okay, so let us read. Because of arbitrary arrests and abuses of the civil guards. Okay, let's highlight. So because of the arbitrary arrests and abuses of the civil guards. So that's one. okay, who caused deaths and in connivance with and even under the express orders of their officers, who at times would order the shooting of those placed under arrest under the pretext that they attempted to escape, in violation of known rules and regulations. Okay, we have abuses, so we are that were left unpunished. So we are now referring to the then judicial system, okay, which was partial, okay, may kini-kilingan, okay. So we have unjust deportations of illustrious Filipinos, okay, meaning Filipinos who were enlightened, who were asking for reforms. Okay, so yan. So you have the personalities of Rizal, Del Pilar, and the other propagandists, especially those decreed by General Blanco at the instigation of the Archbishop and the friars interested in keeping them in ignorance for egoistic and selfish ends. Okay, so they are now referring to phylocracy, or that phenomena where the government was actually influenced or controlled by friars, okay, who wanted to keep them in ignorance and egoistic and selfish ends. Yan. Again, we're not saying that all friars or all priests are abusive. It's just na yun nga, the head priest, okay, the archbishop, was involved in the oppression and in the abuse. Okay? So those for Aguinaldo and for Bautista justified the revolution, that the Filipinos were being oppressed, were being abused by the Guardia Civil, okay? And most part were under the orders of the superior officers from the Governor General, okay? Down. Okay? So you have an abusive judicial system who, even though you were abused and you were brought to trial, or the abuser was brought to trial, so there was corruption in the judicial system. You have the deportations of Filipinos who were asking for reforms, who were revealing the state of the society of the colony at the time. Okay, so you have uh, friars who were uh, manipulating, or who were influencing uh, the government for their selfish ends. Okay, so the people were at the receiving end of the abuses or the oppression. So that's why they justified these situations to stage the revolution. So yun nga, so they revolted, uh, they struggled, they fought with the Spaniards. Now, what would give them basis to declare independence? Okay. All right. So again, let's read the undersigned assemblage of military chiefs resolved to start a revolution in August 1896 in order to regain the independence sovereignty which the people had been deprived by Spain. Such was the success of the victory of our arms. Okay. So that the independence of our country and the revindication of our sovereignty is assured. So basically, they were saying that independence is assured. Okay? Assured meaning it's not yet there. They did not yet attain independence, but Well, it's a sure win for them. It's a sure attainment of the goal of independence. Okay? So, then, medyo mahaba. Okay, but uh, let's read. Okay? So, the revolution, sorry, spread to the other towns. Okay, Cavite, Bataan, Pampanga, Batangas, Bulacan, Laguna, Morong. Okay, this was after the return of Aguinaldo. Okay. Okay, so such was the success of the victory of our arms. Okay, that in the first mentioned province. So you have what was the first mentioned province? Uh, you have Cavite. Okay, only the detachments in Naik and Indang remained to surrender. Okay, so imagine, so out of all of Cavite, only Naik and Indang had uh, Spanish forces remaining. In the second, so you have Bataan. So you have Bataan. Uh, okay, all detachments had been wiped out. So yan, so wala na sa Bataan. In the third, Pampanga. Yan. The resistance of the Spanish forces was localized in the town of San Fernando, where the greater part of them are concentrated, and the remainder in Macabebe, Sesmuan, and Guagua. So, uh, so the remaining forces are only few. So again, concentrated in San Fernando and in other towns. Fourth, you have Batangas, and in the town of Lipa. So only in Lipa na lang natitira. In the fifth, you have Bulacan. In the capital, Malolos, and in Kalumpit. In the last two remaining provinces, so you have Laguna and Morong. Yan. Only in their respective capitals na lang. Okay? The city of Manila will soon be besieged. Okay? So meaning uh, they were now moving towards Manila. Okay? They were now preparing for the attack on Manila. Okay? So as the provinces of Nueva Ecija, Tarlac, Pangasinan, La Union, Zambales, and some others in the Visayas were the revolution at the time of the pacification and others. Okay, even before. Okay. Okay, so basically, what this says is that most of the Spanish forces are already defeated. Right? It's only a matter of time before those who were not yet defeated or those who did not yet surrender will be attacked by the Filipino forces. That's why they said that uh, independence and sovereignty is assured. Because they were confident that they will defeat the remaining Spanish forces. Again, with their superior numbers, and they are now better equipped with weapons compared to the first phase of the revolution. Okay, so here we have the proclamation itself. Having as witness to the rectitude of our intentions, the Supreme Judge of the universe, and under the protection of the powerful and humanitarian nation, the United States of America, we do hereby proclaim and declare solemnly, in the name and by authority of the people of these Philippine Islands, first, that they are and have the right, that they are and have the right to be free and independent. So yun nga. So they're not proclaiming that they are independent, and just like any nation, they have the right to be free and to be independent. Okay? That the people have ceased to have any allegiance to the crown of Spain. Ayan. So yun nga. So they are no longer under the occupation of Spain. All political ties between them are and should be severed and annulled. Okay. Like other free independent states, they enjoy the full power to make war and peace, conclude commercial treaties, enter into alliances, regulate commerce. In short, all the other activities, all the other actions that an independent nation can do. Okay, so they now have that capacity. Okay, but again, remember that this is a proclamation coming from the Filipinos' perspective. Okay, more on that later. Okay. All right, so to further strengthen the basis for the independence, they also uh, proclaimed that they have the national symbols to represent their the nation. Okay. So more importantly, so what was described here is the flag. Okay. If you're uh, if you're recently viewing posts, di ba, there are some posts regarding uh, modules of the primary school, elementary siguro yun. Okay? Wherein it showed the meaning behind the flag. Yeah, okay? Some interpretations of the symbols of the flag. Okay, so this is the original meaning. Okay, this was the intended meaning of the symbols of the flag. Okay, so you have the white triangle signifying the distinctive emblem of the famous Society of the Katipunan. Okay, so again, the white triangle signifies the emblem of the Katipunan, which by means of its blood compact inspired the masses to rise in revolution. Okay, so originally white did not necessarily mean purity or pure of heart or intention, etc. Okay. Okay, so it signified the Katipunan, the white triangle. The three stars signifying the three principal islands of this archipelago, Luzon, Mindanao, and Panay, where this revolutionary movement started. Okay? Again, this is the original meaning behind the symbols. All right? Of course, we cannot say na if the people decide na the meaning of the stars are Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao to signify the three major island groups. Okay. Well, if it's a consensus of the people, then wala tayong magagawa. But again, this is the original meaning. Okay, take note of the term, original. It's important to indicate. Right? It's important to give proper indications. Okay. So, Luzon, Mindanao, and Panay, where the movement started. Okay. The sun representing the gigantic steps made by the sons of the country along the path of progress and civilization. The eight rays signifying the eight provinces. Again, this is the original. Okay, Manila, Cavite, Bulacan, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Bataan, Laguna, and Batangas, which declared themselves in a state of war as soon as the first revolt was initiated. Okay. The colors blue, red, and white commemorating the flag of the United States of North America as a manifestation of our profound gratitude towards this great nation for its disinterested protection which it lent us and continues lending us. Okay, so the red does not necessarily mean bravery. Okay, blue does not necessarily mean peace. Okay, so originally it meant commemoration for the United States of America. Okay, for their protection, which it lent and continued lending us. It's okay. So why would Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista include these statements? If you remember a while ago, by in the proclamation itself, uh, there's also a portion there that states this one that states uh, and under the protection of the powerful and humanitarian nation, the United States of America. Why did he have to include those statements? So we have uh, we can theorize some possible reasons, but again, this is open to interpretation and research. Okay, I remember that it was through the Americans where Aguinaldo was able to purchase the ammunitions. So of course, one way or another, but we can be grateful to the Americans for the assistance. Okay. Secondly, uh, since the Philippines is a young nation, okay, the Americans are still here at the time. Okay, in order for us to get back on our feet, okay, so we need to be protected from other invaders who may have interests in the Philippines. Okay. So again, we can ask, uh, well, again, since the ammunitions and the guns were purchased from the Americans, diba? So they are one way or another part of the defense of the Filipinos. Okay, but again, this is open to interpretation. This is open for clarifications and corrections for further research. Again, it's another good idea for research. Okay. Uh, the other point that we want to make here, again, we mentioned a while ago that it's a proclamation based on the perspective of the Filipinos. Uh, it's important to note na for independent, why? Because have a look here. Okay, these are some of the actions that free or an independent nation may do. Okay, to make war and peace. Okay, if you are not recognized by other independent nations, your declaration of war may not be taken seriously. Well, of course, you can just attack. Okay, ganun nga. More importantly, the concluding of commercial treaties. Okay, independent nations, if they did not recognize your independence, may not enter into commercial treaties or alliances with you. Okay, because again, they do not deem you as an independent nation. That's why it's important if you want to proclaim your independence, it has to be recognized by others. Okay. Although, well, Aguinaldo did make sure that recognition, the independence of the Philippines will be recognized. He sent ambassadors to other countries. Unfortunately, so no other country, no other independent nation recognized the independence of the Filipinos. So the the desire is there, the aspiration is there. It's already attained. The physical necessities for independence is there. Unfortunately, it was not recognized. And almost immediately after, what happened? So we have the Treaty of Paris on December 10 of 1898. Okay, where the Spaniards not only did they not recognize our independence, but they they turned over the administration of the Philippines to the Americans. Okay, for the value of $20 million for the improvements and the developments that the Spaniards made on the Philippine Islands. Okay. So yun. Well, it would have been a different story if the Filipinos defeated the American forces. Unfortunately, well, they were not able to. We were not able to. So, well, we were then occupied almost immediately after by the Americans. Okay. But still, the aspiration, the desire for independence is there, and and it's something that is important to commemorate. Okay? This is the time when we proclaimed, when we said that we are and we will be an independent nation. Okay? So that's why this date, June 12, 1898, is very important. Okay? Aside from that, also, of course, the first cry of the revolution. That's also another important uh, event to be commemorated. Okay, so with that, thank you for listening. If you have questions or clarifications, please again feel free to contact me through my contact information. I see you and stay safe.